You talk about dating relationships in prison, and honestly, there's so many different types of dating and relationships happening in prison. I mean, you got inmate and inmate relationships, you got inmate and officer relationships, and then you have inmate and people on the outside relationships, and honestly, there's just a lot to talk about. But first, let's cover the obvious, and that would be inmate to inmate relationships. Now, I'm in a women's prison. I had no idea that 90% of people are dating. So I was in receiving, which is where you go when you first get locked up, and then they sent me to the yard that I would be serving my time on. And I go there, and it's on February the 13th. And I remember that because love was in the air. So these two girls are obviously in a relationship, and one of them doesn't live on the building. Not allowed to go into the building. If it's not your building, you can't go in it. There's this commotion, and I'm on my top bunk, and I kind of lean over the bunk, and I'm looking down the hall, and this girl sneaks into the building. Like, there's a whole crew of people watching out for officers, and she has this beautiful cake that she's made. It's just gorgeous. It looks like one of those sweetheart things with like the Be Mine on it. And she's made it from like the filling of lemon cookies, and it's just incredible how people make these things. So she's made this beautiful cake, and she presents it to her girlfriend, and her girlfriend like wasn't expecting to see her girlfriend there. The whole hall was watching, and she gets this cake, and the girlfriend is just like stunned. And then the other girl who gave her the cake like made a little sweet speech, and everybody is just like, oh. And I was just leaning over my bunk like, what is going on? Like, this is so romantic. But one thing about a women's prison is that you are not allowed to touch anybody in the prison. You are not allowed to hold hands or kiss or hug. And so these girls who wanted to be intimate, they would have to come up with clever ways. And they usually had to involve participants who would watch out for them. And if they got caught, then they got sent to lockup. And like the officers knew who was in a relationship with who. A lot of them were just like cool with it. As long as you didn't like make out with them in front of the officers, and they were just like whatever. But then some officers were like aiming to catch you, like they knew who was dating, and they were just like eyeballs on them, like they just wanted to bust them and send them to lockup. Anyway, I've got more of these. I've got inmate and officers to do, and then inmate and people on the outside relationships to cover. But I'm going to stop here and finish straightening my hair.